Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive. We're all about getting you truly informed, fast, giving you those key insights and aha moments without drowning you in data. Today we're looking at something really cutting edge. It's AI, but maybe not how you usually think about it. We're talking about how AI is starting to understand complex visuals, not just in, say, a high-tech operating room, but potentially for anyone trying to learn something visually dense. Our mission, we're going to explore this idea of personal AI. We'll show you a neat demonstration that suggests how close we might be to having, smart digital helpers tailored specifically for your learning. Think turning a complicated textbook into something you can grasp way faster. It's really a shortcut to understanding where this tech is headed.
Yeah. And what's really fascinating, I think, is the basic idea here. It's about visual AI, actually seeing and reasoning about details in an image. Not just recognizing that's a thing, but understanding its context, its importance, whether it's a diagram in a book or eventually live surgery. And, domain expertise is absolutely critical. This whole demonstration concept, it came from a board-certified neurosurgeon who also has a PhD in anatomy. It just hammers home that you need that deep, real-world knowledge to build and guide these AI tools effectively.
That's a really key point. But when we hear AI, a lot of us think, massive systems, Google, big tech stuff. So what does personal AI actually mean in this context, say, for a medical student or just someone curious?
That's a fair question. Personal AI here means these powerful AI capabilities are becoming, well, more accessible, smaller scale. You don't necessarily need a supercomputer. Think of it more like an intelligent assistant. You can actually train yourself, customize for what you need to know, often using tools that are pretty readily available, like Google Gemini, for example. It shows you don't always need those huge, expensive platforms to start doing some really innovative things, especially in complex visual fields. It opens the door for experts to build their own custom tools.
Okay, that makes sense. And it immediately makes me think about learning, especially visual learning. Medical books, anatomy atlases, engineering diagrams, they're packed with complex images. So how could this kind of personal AI help someone, maybe a neurosurgery trainee, wrestling with a textbook? How does it make learning from those images better?
Exactly. Take that neurosurgery textbook. It's dense, right? Text descriptions, complex diagrams, flipping back and forth. But what if an AI could help you instantly get, and remember, the critical stuff in those pictures? That's where we can sort of reshape how we learn from books. The idea is to start by annotating the pictures in the book. You teach the AI about that specific book's images. It makes reading and, more importantly, understanding and remembering much more effective. It takes some of that huge visual memorization burden off the trainee's shoulders. You're basically training a personal AI tutor for that one book.
Wow, okay, so not training an AI on a library, but making it an expert on one specific resource, like a super specialized study buddy for your textbook.
That's it. Exactly. That's the vision. In this demonstration we're talking about, it really hints at that ultimate goal, an AI co-pilot for complex tasks, whether it's helping you master a textbook or, down the line, assisting in a real procedure. Annotating book images is basically a direct parallel to how you start training an AI for the operating room by annotating surgical videos.
Okay.
The book example is a fantastic way to show the core idea using tools most people can access.
Okay, so let's get practical. How do you actually teach an AI about these intricate diagrams? If you don't have some fancy, expensive annotation software, how do you, mark up a book image so the AI gets it? Is this that pre-annotation thing?
That's right. Pre-annotation. Think of it like giving the AI a really clear highlighted study guide before the test. Instead of just showing it a raw image and saying, figure it out, you manually point out exactly what you want it to learn. The key landmarks, the important relationships, like drawing on a map for someone before they try to navigate. This is what we're calling phase one, preparing your visual data, straight from the neurosurgery book in this case.
All right, walk us through it. If I grab my neurosurgery textbook, how do I start?
Okay, first step. Pick a few really good, clear images from the book, not just any random picture. You need images that clearly show, say, at least one distinct anatomical landmark. Maybe it's the optic nerve, maybe a specific part of the cortex, or an aneurysm shown in a diagram. Or maybe it illustrates a really critical concept or step. Clarity is key.
Got it. Clear, impactful images. Then what?
Then you need to get those images out of the book digitally. You could scan them, take a high-res photo, maybe even a screenshot if it's a digital book. Get them as separate image files like JPEGs or PNGs. Once you have those files, you start the manual marking up, adding the visual cues. And you don't need super fancy software. Basic image editors work great. Photoshop, GIMP, even PowerPoint or Google Slides can do the job for this kind of thing. You're manually adding color-coded overlays onto these images. These overlays, they represent what a real trained AI would be seeing or annotating. You're basically simulating the AI's output.
Okay, color-coded overlays, are there rules? Like, does green always mean nerve or...
Yes, consistency is absolutely vital. You decide on a code and stick to it. For anatomy, use distinct, consistent colors. Maybe green always outlines the optic nerve in your examples, blue for the cerebral cortex, yellow for an aneurysm diagram. You draw precise shapes, boxes, polygons, maybe just dots to visually tag these structures. Then, for important relationships or, say, danger zones indicated in the diagram, use a contrasting color. Red is often good for emphasis, maybe a circle, an arrow, or even text like critical area. The key is, use the same color for the same type of thing across all your prepared images. That's how the AI learns the pattern.
Right. Consistency is crucial. And then after you've done all this drawing on the images, you still need to tell the AI what it's supposed to be looking at, yeah? How does it connect your colored lines to actual meaning?
Exactly. You can't just show it the pretty picture. For each marked up image, you need to write a clear, concise prompt. This prompt basically introduces the image to the AI. In our case, Gemini tells it it's looking at a neurosurgery diagram and asks it to interpret your color codes within that specific context. Sets the stage, gives it the frame of reference. It's like asking a specific question about the picture.
Okay, so let's picture this. You've got your marked up images, your prompts ready, you fire up Google Gemini. How does the actual demonstration work? What does it look like?
Right, this is phase 2, demonstrating AI interpretation with Google Gemini. You'd likely share your screen, focusing on the Gemini interface. First, you give Gemini the context. You explain, okay, Gemini, we're simulating how a personal AI assistant might interpret diagrams from a neurosurgery book. These colored annotations I've added represent what the AI would identify. The goal here is to show that even a general AI like Gemini, when given the right context and visual cues, can start to reason about complex medical visuals. It demonstrates the potential for these personalized learning tools.
Okay, makes sense. So you show the first image, maybe that diagram with the green box around the optic nerve. What's the prompt like?
You display that image and prompt something like, Gemini, here's an image from a neurosurgery text. The green box highlights a specific anatomical structure. Based on the context of neurosurgery, what do you infer this green box is identifying, and why is knowing this important for a surgeon or a trainee? Then you watch Gemini process the image and the text. Ideally, it infers optic nerve, and it might explain its importance critical for vision, needs to be preserved during surgery. For a trainee, this is gold, right? The AI instantly clarifies what they're looking at and why it matters. It really helps cement that knowledge, connecting the visual to the clinical relevance.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that instant visual clarification. Okay, what about the next image? Maybe one showing a critical step, marked in red.
So for that second image, maybe showing the point where an aneurysm is exposed in a diagram, you'd prompt, okay, Gemini, look at this next image. The red circle highlights a key step or critical moment shown in this diagram. In a neurosurgical context, what might this represent, and what would a digital assistant point out about it? Gemini sees the red circle, understands it's marking something significant based on your prompt. It might infer this shows aneurysm exposure. A smart assistant trained this way could then explain, this is the critical exposure step. Next comes clipping. Be aware of potential parent vessel occlusion. It turns a static diagram into a dynamic explanation of the procedure's flow and potential risks. Much deeper learning than just reading the caption.
And it's not just isolated pictures, is it? What if you have a series showing how things progress? Can the AI understand that flow?
That's a great point, yes. For a third image, or maybe looking back at the sequence, you could ask, looking at this progression, how does the ability to track these annotated elements over time help understand the overall surgical workflow or the steps shown in this procedure? Gemini would then talk about the temporal aspect. By seeing the annotations change or appear across images, it can build a sort of mental map of the procedure depicted. It can recognize, okay, first this structure is identified, then this step happens, then this outcome. It understands transitions, exposure, dissection, clipping, whatever the diagram shows. That grasp of workflow from static images is incredibly powerful for learning efficiently and preparing mentally.
Wow. Okay, so this whole process, it gives us a real glimpse, doesn't it?
It really does. It shows how AI, even the more accessible personal AI, can start to interpret really complex visual information. Now, let's be clear. Building a full-on digital assistant for live surgery, that needs enormous, expertly labeled data sets, specialized tools, way beyond this simulation. But the core capability, Understanding the visuals, reasoning about them, that's what this demonstration shows is becoming possible.
And it really drives home the power of visual AI. As you said, these systems can genuinely see and interpret medical images in a meaningful way. It's not just pattern matching, it's contextual understanding, turns static pictures into interactive lessons.
Absolutely. And just as importantly, it highlights the importance of annotation. Remember those manual color overlays we talked about? That's exactly the kind of input real AI models learn from, just on a much larger scale. It shows you absolutely need that expert human input, the neurosurgeon, the anatomist, to teach the AI what it's seeing. The AI is only as smart as its teacher.
Which points to the real-time potential. This isn't just about learning from books anymore, is it? The vision is a digital assistant, giving real-time guidance, maybe flagging critical moments in your study material, or eventually perhaps even in the OR.
That's the long-term vision, yes. And the personal AI impact here is that these advanced capabilities are filtering down. They're becoming more accessible. You don't need a giant research lab to start exploring these ideas or build powerful proof-of-concept demonstrations like this one. It really lowers the barrier for individuals, for experts, to innovate.
And that brings us back to the human element. Your role as the expert guiding this is paramount.
Couldn't agree more. Whether you're the neurosurgeon defining the critical structures, the medical illustrator creating the clear diagrams, or even the student confirming understanding your domain knowledge is indispensable. You guide the annotation, you validate the AI's interpretation. It's this human-in-the-loop approach that's absolutely critical for building AI tools we can actually trust. Tools that genuinely help people perform better, whether they're learning or operating.
So what does this all mean for you listening? Whether you're in medicine, engineering, art history, or any field that relies heavily on visuals. Think about it. This kind of expert-guided visual AI, it could completely change how we learn and interact with complex information. It's about empowering domain experts like that neurosurgeon to craft their own custom learning and assistance tools, tools that speak the specific visual language of their field. Imagine turning dense technical manuals or textbooks into interactive, intuitive learning experiences. Ultimately, it points towards smarter, maybe safer, and certainly more efficient ways of working and learning across so many areas. Definitely something to keep thinking about. Keep diving deep.